Well, Leanne, I think we should get this
Yeah.
party started.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Well, welcome back, everybody, to our Tiny Talks. We're happy to have you. And if welcome, if this is your first Tiny Talks, these are monthly. And just want to say it is being recorded. And also, since it's our inspector chat with Q&A, if you guys have any questions, well, first of all, keep yourself muted during the meeting just because of any background noise. And also, if you want to ask the question, an inspector related question yourself, you can unmute yourself and ask the question or save it. You can put it in the chat and I'll ask it for you. Also, I'd like to announce in September, our Tiny Talks is actually going to be a 4-day Tiny Talks workshop where we'll have a couple different NOAA builders. We're going to have our very own CEO and founder, Robin Butler, speaking on codes and placement. We're going to have one of our brand new modular builders talk about tiny houses as modulars. And we'll be announcing the agenda. We're going to fine tune it. And Robin and I are working on that right now, but that's the gist of it. So that'll be September 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern. And if you're already signed up for monthly Tiny Talks, you don't have to sign up again. You're already signed up. So look for that agenda and invite, and we'll look forward to seeing you. So tonight we have our inspector chat, which is always very popular and informative as our guys get on, answer any kind of questions you have that are inspector related, of course. And then also at the end, we're gonna come on and say some well wishes to Tony and Joanne. Tony is retiring, he's a crazy guy, wants to go off and have some fun, but we can't blame him for that. And we appreciate all the years and support you've given NOAA. But I have some messages to read, and some of our builders might be on that are gonna wish you well in person, well, via Zoom. So anyway, with that, let's get started. I know Sherry's here, so if anybody have any questions you want to ask to get things started, you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask the question that you have.
Sure, I'll go first. Should be a simple one. Working
Hey,
on a couple of new plans, and we're pretty much moving to exclusively deck over trailers. So we're building a wood subfloor over I-beams, and the I-beams do have cross members, C-channel, 4-inch C-channel going between the I-beams. So if I stack my joists on top of those cross members, I've just been using 2x6s because it's what, seemed right, but I'm one plan in particular, I'm trying to get a little extra height. And can I go to 2x4s if it's stacked on top of those 4-inch C channel?
How
And
far
I think
apart are your cross members?
24 inches.
yeah, but didn't you want to run them lengthwise?
No. Just same as so right now I do, 2x6s. They're stacked on top, 24 inches on center, just like a normal subfloor. I'm just thinking from a strength perspective, that steel is stronger than, my
Yeah.
wood anyways, so.
That's the spacing of your cross members is a 24 right now.
24 inches on center. Nothing really changes. I just don't know. I'm still going to put R15, rock wool in there.
I don't really see any reason why not, really.
I bolt every, floor joist to the both I-beams. I was just curious if I could gain a couple extra inches that way. I might do it on a plan, so.
What's the width of your Andy? What's the width of your trailer?
Trailers, this model will be a 10-foot wide. The main I-beams are 8.5 feet apart, from the outside to outside. So the 2x4s would technically be cantilevered. I guess we're looking at 8-9 inches, something like that.
Okay. Do do your metal cross members, are they up high where they could
They are
support?
flush. They're
Like, could
flush
you?
with the
Yeah,
top of the I-beams, and then there's a metal skin welded to that on top. So it's a flush platform. All the structural members are flush. Yeah.
yeah, because I would say as long as you can run your 2x4s on top of those cross members,
Yeah.
then you're fine. Because what we're looking at is a deflection
Yep.
of the floor system, so you'll be fine if that's on top of that.
All right. It was just an idea I had the other day, and since I'm here,
Do you also
Yep.
build to the? Do you recall if you built it a NOAA Plus or the NOAA dwelling standard?
it depends. We do both. On this one, I assume I won't have enough floor, our value, so it'd have to be the NOAA Plus, right? So
Okay, you're up to speed
Yeah.
then. We're good.
yep.
Question for you, Andy, if I may. I
Yeah.
heard you say something about it being cantilevered out over the edges of the trailer. Is
Yeah.
the metal also cantilevered, or is it just going to be the wood?
It would just be the wood.
A 2x4 supporting a wall,
Yeah, that's. I don't
cantilevered?
have any lofts or anything like that, but I don't know. Does that cause problem?
I don't know that would be any kind of building code, actually.
It actually would. It's a good question, Doug. It actually would, because the typical ratio is 4-to-1 at max.
Right.
But typically with something like a wall on top, because you could build a deck with like an enclosed deck. Let's just take that, like an enclosed room, and your ratio back in would be 3-to-1. So with that said, I mean, even that would meet, the typical like IRC building code. But it's definitely a really good question.
Yeah,
Another
especially-
suggestion that I would have, Andy, would be in ANSI 119.5, you basically have your main rails, which are I-beams. That's prescriptive I-beams, and I believe they're 8 inches. And then you have 1.5-inch cross members and 1.5-inch what they call outriggers, and they're every 4 feet. So you might think about an L-angle outrigger on the I-beam that would be a 9-inch just angle that would go out every 4 feet to support that. And but I see where Doug's talking about. When you're talking a cantilever, I can see where a 2x6 or a 2x8, 2x10, can go out. Normally in IRC, you don't use 2x4s for floor joists. So that would really be up to the inspectors and the plans review and everything. So I would go by what they say, but just my limited knowledge of construction and building, it wouldn't be that hard to put an outrigger every 4 feet, and you could bolt your floor joist right to that. I mean your plates right to that.
A follow-up question on that too might be, if you put the angle iron at the end of every 2 foot and you just forgone the wood and went right directly to the metal using like tech screws, would that be better?
Yeah, then just the way that these trailers are built, it'd be tough to insulate. So, I like having that wood subfloor. I'm just trying to gain a couple inches if I can. If I can't, I'd rather just stick with the wood subfloor and the good insulation, and yeah. That's just my preference, yeah, in this case.
Do you
Thanks,
put
everyone.
lofts in your units?
We don't. We've kind of moved away from. We're all one level, main floor bedrooms. We just get a lot of interest in that at our price point. Kind of, retirees, people downsizing, stuff like that, and they just not as many people wanting to climb up in lofts. And frankly, my knees are getting a little freaky too, and I don't love climbing up in lofts and builds. So,
So really a 2x6, gaining that 2 inches isn't trying to get more room in the loft. You're just trying to gain a couple inches. So it wouldn't be that big of a deal if you went to 2x6s and got the higher
No,
R
it's one
values and all
plan where
that.
I'm trying to do like an integrated bunk bed sort of special thing that in lieu of a loft, you know, sort of. But it's just an idea. I'm just kicking it around. Yep.
Can't wait to see that one. You guys need to follow our Facebook, NOAA RDI, and our Instagram, NOAA Certified Tiny Houses. You can search for Firefly and see some shots I've shared, which, by the way, if you guys are any NOAA builders and you have any pictures of current builds that are NOAA certified, feel free to send them to me and I'll give y'all a shout out. Yeah, righty.
Andy, we use 2x4s for our floors, but we have a different trailer design,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
I can
think
check with my manufacturer. Those outriggers, that might be a pretty low cost, you know, option. I'll just check with my manufacturer and we'll go from there. It might be just a nice belt and suspenders option.
All right. More questions?
I
Thanks,
know our
Andy.
builders have a lot more questions than this. They're more talkative than this.
Right. Jacob?
usually they are. That's true. Yeah, usually they are.
Well, if
Well,
you
I have a
notice, most of
question.
us have our video turned off too, because we're all crying here because Tony's leaving.
I know.
I hear.
Don't get
You know
me
what?
started.
I'll tell you one thing though.
Just so you know, Tony, I'm really not, but we are gonna miss you, buddy.
Didn't think so. I'll tell you, Robin, though, with them not having questions is actually good because that would mean that during the course of everything, we and them are pretty much on the same pages on most of the things.
So I got one for you. I'll throw it out there. Egress windows. I know 5.7 in dwelling for a second floor, 5.1 on the first floor, and 17 tall by 24 wide, I think it is, or it's 17 by 24 period for ANSI 119.5 or NOAA Plus. Anything else special about that?
No, just always remember it's the clear openings. Other than that, no.
Well, one of the things that I never see, but it doesn't have to be a rectangle, it can be an ellipsoid. And so if you are doing a 2-foot by 2-foot skylight, even though it will create enough of an ellipsoid in between the 22.5 inches between your roof rafters. You can put a 24-inch by 24-inch skylight, and you can get an ellipsoid big enough for an egress window if you wanted to use the ANSI standard. The other thing that we did with Colorado was when we're doing the NOAA Plus, or when we're doing the NOAA dwelling standard, the challenge was to meet IRC with the 6'2" ceiling height when standing on the top landing. You know, you go up your steps, and then there's a landing at the very top before you crawl into the loft. And there was no way to actually do that, even with a drop axle on only 22 inches to the deck, the floor level, first floor level. So what we did with Colorado is we increased, and we did the same thing with our NOAA dwelling standard. We increased the allowable distance between the top of the loft to the top of the landing, so that you could get that 6'2" standing right there on the landing ceiling height. Appendix Q doesn't have, I think they said 16 to 18 inches, and we needed to get up, I believe, to 24 inches in order to make things work. And I'm just going by memory. It's been a couple of years since we developed that standard, but we basically took Appendix Q and said, how can we really make this work for a tiny house on wheels? And that was the solution that Colorado came up with, and so we implemented the same solution.
I just want to know
And
when they're going to come out with their own tiny house rules.
well, it's soon. And what the reason why I was going down that road was that it's very hard to get an egress window big enough. And that's why Appendix Q allowed you to do a skylight for an egress. To get an egress window in the wall that has that 5.7 square feet, and all the requirements there. But what we did is we made the landing part of the loft, and therefore you could put a egress window that would meet IRC in that landing area.
I know I built one on a foundation, and on those you can go higher because you're not height limited because it's not going down the road. It's attached to a foundation, so it's much easier.
Right.
Right, we have a question in the chat. I'm gonna read it. I am just starting on my first steel stud tiny home frame and wanted to know if I can use Versa pin nails with a nail gun instead of screws.
Is your frame, when you're using metal studs, what is this, like a Volstruck or a cold form steel framing, or are you using just your regular metal studs that you buy at a supply house?
Oh yes, I'm working with Volstruck, so I have the kit already delivered and probably going to start building it in November. So I'm just kind of getting ready.
Well, Volstruct has a siding that goes along with their framing that creates the shear strength of the unit. I've forgotten what that type of, not siding, underlayment that they use. Are you familiar with their underlayment that they recommend? That it helps create a thermal break and everything when you're using metal studs.
Volstruck provides
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think you can buy it from a supply house, but they can give you the name of it, what it is.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I'm sure the inspector is going to say this same thing. If the sheathing company will allow you to use those, then you're good. Use those
Okay.
nails. You know,
Okay.
right, Rich and Tony, we go by what the manufacturer says.
Yeah, it would be strictly dependent on that manufacturer and what their guidelines and recommendations are. So what was it called again?
Versa pin?
Well, it's cold form steel is what he's doing. And it's a package that comes out with the divots and everything cut in where you put your screws and all that they do. And it's, I've forgotten the gauge that he uses, but it's a pretty sturdy looking thing. But the challenge has always been with metal is you have heat transfer, but the guys over there, I know Mark, I can't remember the other guy's name, but they came up with a solution, which was this certain type of underlayment that they use, or sheathing that they use.
Okay, Aaron chimed in. Aaron with Tumbleweed, welcome. They do a 5.7 egress above the landing. And Jacob says their custom loft egress windows will be here in October. Woohoo.
I also found a company that does like double hung windows, but they actually have they're more expensive, but they actually have a latch that opens up and you can push the window out and the whole window comes out of the frame, giving you the whole frame size of the window, and it goes completely around, so it's a clear opening all the way out. So you could, I mean, this one I'm building right now, I bought a window from Anderson that said it was egress, but I think it only is 5.1 egress. It wasn't clear on that, but I'm doing ANSI plus, or NOAA plus, so I'm not super worried about it. But yeah.
But the only thing you got to be careful about when you're doing ANSI and using Anderson or other window manufacturers that call them egress on the ANSI standard, it needs to be 24 inches wide. It can't be any less than 24 inches wide. but in the IRC standard, it can be 20 inches wide. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Yep, you're spot on.
There's also a company that you can go to, egresswindows.com. And that's what they specialize in. I don't know how good they are, but a couple of our builders have gotten them from there. So you might want to look into that. I know egress windows is kind of hard to come by on some of them.
Ready Exit's another one.
And I think Jacob has some windows. If I remember right, he was telling me that he ordered in, that he has surplus if anybody was interested. But Jacob may want to chime in on that.
Yeah, we had to order 100 of them, so there will be extra.
I mean, can you just do a 5030 slider? I order that all the time. It's just from Plygem, or that'll get you like over 6 square feet.
Yeah, I did a large slide though.
I don't know. It doesn't seem complicated. I mean, most lofts have at least a 3.5 foot wall, 4 foot wall. If it's, you know, like just slap a 5030 slider in there and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them do. Even the, well, if it's ANSI, you can go with smaller slider than that. Even.
Yeah, right. But if you're looking even for the dwelling, I don't see why that's, I mean, it's got to be, it's going to be too close to the floor. So you're going to have to be, why I don't slip in my temper.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brain fire.
Yeah. Yeah, but you also have to have a header over that, you know, 5 foot span is going to be at least a 2x6, double 2x6. So you got
Put
to
it in the
calculate
roof.
that into your height.
I mean, I do that all the time. Just put the header in the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
easier and better than some custom window. I mean, that's just my opinion, but if anyone's looking for an opinion.
So what do? You put the window up to the top plate or double top plate, and then on top of the double top plate you put a double 2x6, and then
yeah, and then you got to
run
hanger your rafters. You got to put hangers on your rafters. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that works.
I have a question. It's not my question. It came from a builder. So he has a 2x6 ceiling framing. Do I need to have a support beam?
What type
long
of
is the span?
Is it a gable roof?
Is it a gable or?
I'm sorry, I
what's
don't
the
know.
span?
It only came. I'll just give y'all the phone number tomorrow. It came from one of our builders. I actually sent it to Tony and Frank, but
We probably
Well,
didn't
you
answer.
know, just a generic, what I can say is whenever you're doing a gable roof, you can get, if you don't have a ridge board that's, you know, double supporting whatever, you have to be concerned about the spreading out of the, um, of the, what am I trying to say? The bottom of the rafters. So you have to have collar ties or, well, not even collar ties. You got to have rafter ties or ceiling joists in order to hold everything together, unless you do have a supporting beam as a ridge, and then you could possibly not have that sag. But if you're doing a shed roof, you know, that's just a matter of span. You know, how far are you spanning the ceiling joists? So.
And another
That's
thing
my
I do,
2 cents.
Robin, is I put a 12-inch strap across the top, across the ridge
Yeah.
board, and down
Right.
across the two on all of them when I build them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
And
that's
depending
good
on the
too, because
length, sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
but depending on
Well,
the
when you're
length, I'll have 1 or 2 beams with small posts, 4x4 beams that I attach on top of the top plates, and then I'll run a beam up to the ridge board. It's a decorative thing, but it's also a functional thing.
The thing is, Frank will tell you, gable roofs are a thorn in my side. I have to say that. Because I see too many builders putting a gable roof and they have no idea what they're doing. And the only thing they're doing is jeopardizing the homeowner who buys that home, and jeopardizing their own work. And we try to explain to them the right way to do it. And, you know, sometimes we get a lot of pushback on it, but it's just logic. It's just logic. Something that's on a point is going to push downward. That's just logic. And you get snow load on there and so forth, a wind, it's going to push downward. What's going to keep those walls from moving outward? You know, and I try to get this across to some of the builders, and they just kind of don't get it, I guess I want to say. But yeah, that gable roofs are just a thorn in my side when I see them. And some guys,
And
I
the
mean, I
main-
did want to say the guy was he did a, I want to say it's perfect. It was better than perfect. He actually understood what happens with a gable roof, and it was really good. I was impressed with it.
Yeah. And the main problem is not where the lofts are, because the lofts tend to hold the walls together.
Right.
You know, where you have something like that, if the studs are continuous, what they call balloon framing all the way from the bottom to the top. But then when you get out over the open area, that's where you really have, you know, be concerned about spreading of the walls. And it depends on how far of an open area that you have. So yeah. And then getting back to the strapping, you know, when you're strapping something down, when an engineer is designing the strapping on a house that has to withstand a hurricane, that strap across the ridge is very important, because you not only have to put that on, but you have to strap the rafters down to the double top plate down to the studs down to the bottom plate, and the bottom plate bolted to the floor, and the floor bolted, if you're doing a wood floor, the wood floor bolted to the frame itself, and then the frame has to be have either D-rings or straps on it. If you're going to carry this all the way down to the ground, and then you set it up more like a mobile home where you have piers and augers and strap that whole thing all the way down to the earth. And that's where an engineer is going to sit here and figure out what the loads are and the transfer and all that. So that ridge strap is important in the whole scheme of things.
And you know something that kills me about all of that? If you go look at a lot of the houses and the codes in California, they actually have rubber seams in a lot of places to allow buildings to flex during a earthquake.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make them as rigid as we can.
The other thing with that strap that Rob was talking about, it's also there. It's primarily there to keep the two opposing rafters from separating from each other. Even if you have a ridge board there, it's to keep those two opposing rafters from separating. Some of the builders were on the impression that because it's a strap across, it would help to keep the ridge from going down. That's not what it's there for. You know, it's to keep those opposing rafters from moving apart, and that is sometimes a little tough to get across to some of the builders, but they're getting there. They're getting there. You know,
Tony, should we get into electrical?
don't I what?
Should we get into electrical?
Yeah, oh, yeah. But you know, I tell most of the people, no, Noah, all of us, we go to bed at night. We don't have to worry about it. You guys built the house, you're going to send it out to somebody. That person's going to live in there, and that's important. You know, so the only thing that Noah's here for is just to not pick on you at all, is just to make sure that your client is going to get a safe home. That's the whole purpose of this whole thing. And I think that's why I've had a lot of builders tell me that that's why they came to Noah, because of that, to assure them that what they are building for their client is going to be safe for the client, and which is good to hear that.
I'm one.
I know. That's good.
I appreciate that. I've got to say, you know, I built my first home with Noah, and that was a little 8x16, and I learned quite a bit. There were still a few things I didn't know, and you guys really helped out. The consultations, the knowledge that you guys bring is phenomenal, and has, you know, helped me in the beginning from making a few minor mistakes in my case, but you know, I'm sure there's been other even bigger ones.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I was a contractor for a lot of years, and I know that time is money. So, and I know my guys, if they do it right the first time, that's the way it's supposed to be. But they do it wrong, then it costs me money because they got to take it out and redo it. So it's always better. That's one of the reasons that Noah switched over to making sure that we get a plans review on the houses to try and alleviate some of those problems before they're actually put together. And then we say, no, that's not going to work. We're going to have to take it down. So,
Right.
yeah,
I was just going to say that, Tony, because I have found that since we've been requiring those plans, we have found mistakes and which we're able to get it corrected
right.
before it's actually being built. So that way the builder doesn't have to go back and change something. So, I mean, I've seen, you know, a big improvement on that, you know, with the builders submitting, you know, the plans and working along with us, you know, with the inspections.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen a construction site where a plan was given from an engineer that on the construction site, somebody didn't go, what that idiot put that there for? I can't do that.
You know
And you
what?
have to go back to them to get it corrected, right?
Most engineers have never lifted a hammer in their life.
I know. I know. I'd recently had a guy come from UMass Amherst and came out and worked with me for a week. It was his initiative. He wanted to do it. He was going into the building trades, but he was going in to do exactly that, like engineering and stuff like that. But he wanted to get his hands dirty. He didn't even know what a circular saw was. By the time he left me, he did. I
Yeah.
put him right to work, and he was happy. He was really happy to do it.
I was a government contractor for well over 10 years. And if you want to see some pretty bad engineering, uh, they definitely turn out stuff like, did this come from kindergarten or what is this? You know, uh, it's pretty bad. I did a paint. I always talk about this. I did a paint spray booth for the government. I did the electrical portion of it, and it's all explosion equipment. It's a large paint spray booth. And when I looked at the plans on it and looked at everything when I was bidding the job, I had said to my wife, you know, this can't work. This will never work. I don't know why they did this, but I said, I'm going to bid on it anyway. So I bid on it. We started the work, and then I went back to them and said, you know, this don't work. And they argued. They sent down older engineers, argued over it, and I finally showed them that it doesn't work. And I made good money. Let's put it this way. I made good money making it right.
Yeah, that's the change order that happens on a lot of where you do make you bid the job at cost and then you make money on the change orders. A lot of people do that. I did have a question that came up earlier today about you know, the codes and standards for tiny house. Somebody said, are we going to have any standards and codes? Who was that I forgot who asked that question, but I could spend a little bit
Oh,
of time on that. If we don't
I
have
said something about when are we ever going to get our own little you know, we talked about it at one point in time having our own IRC for the tiny houses.
I think it's coming.
Well, it's in the works. I've been on several of the what IRC did. It was a year ago, March, and they did what's called a PINS notification, public notification that they're going to be writing standards and codes for tiny houses and tiny houses on wheels. And so I've been on that committee that they're working on, and there's also another one that's ASTM 88336. I just looked it up that I'm on that committee too. and they're writing standards for tiny houses, mainly focusing on the chassis as a floor system and using existing standards and codes to come up with a code that or a standard that could be adopted as a code. The way I understand it works, we have our ANSI Plus and our NOAA Plus and our NOAA dwelling, but we did that out of necessity because there wasn't anything out there that people could use. But we would like to see something better or something more accepted, I guess. I think we've got a great standard. I think we've covered most of the bases of the problems with tiny houses and things like that using existing standards and codes. But to be able to come up with either ASTM or ICC or both of them come up with something, and then it's up to the states to adopt those as codes in their states, and then we would have something that basically would be generally accepted if you built to that code. So I don't think the standard's going to come out first at ICC. They're planning on having their draft completed by January 1st, which is what is necessary in order for it to get on the ballot for 2027 code change. And ASTM is feverishly working, trying to get their standard done too, so that we can start using it. It's just basically going to be a standard by a standard writing company that's accredited by ANAB to write standards. And then after that, it could be adopted into the building code.
Any thoughts about becoming full ANAP and doing the certification yourself? Because I think you've done a pretty good job of, nailing down all of these issues that we face and coming up with some pretty good solutions to them.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, we had considered that. However, our company, our main effort is for remote inspections, utilizing remote inspections in the inspection world, whether it's tiny houses or whether we're going to talk about on the Tiny Talk some possibilities of going into modulars, going into mainstream residential and commercial using modulars. So that's our focus, and I think we should just let the ICC and the ASTM come up with, because they're the 800-pound gorilla. If ICC comes up with something, then it's going to be more accepted. Even though there's a lot of other code approved writers out there, but when a big gorilla like that comes up with it, then the building officials have an easier time accepting it, I think, Doug. So we'll focus on what we're good at and let them focus on what they do best. And I think we'll come up with a good product at the end of the day.
I wanted to ask some of the builders. We recently sent out an email to all of our builders, and I did get some responses back for mold issues. And I just wanted to see if any of the builders that's on tonight have had any issues with mold in the tiny houses, or so that we can gauge the difference that we put into place is helping those issues. And from what I'm seeing so far, that is the case. Tony, you went through the emails that came in, and so you can talk on that as well. But does anybody have anything to say on that's on?
I'll chime in on, I've never had any mold issues in mine,
Okay.
but I did early on help a couple who had bought a tiny home that had mold issues. They had already stripped the walls down and gone in and done the mold remediation that they needed to do. And there's a paint that you can put on the studs in the interior of the walls, and they had pre-sprayed that before I got involved, but I helped them, with the strategies through NOAA and whatnot, and, building codes, and help them better build out the insulation in the tiny house and cover it up so that it wouldn't happen like that again. One thing they didn't have in that tiny house was really any kind of automatic ventilation. I'm a
Okay.
firm believer in humidistats and ceiling fans, or a bath fan at minimum, and go 80. I know 50 is like the minimum, but go 80, get a little bit more so you can pull more out of the rest of the house too.
Tony, did you want to talk on any of that? Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say, Doug, back probably 2 years ago, I think, Robin and Noah was seeing a number of complaints about mold. And when we went back and took a better look at what we were actually requiring, of course, one of the things was the bathroom fan to be on some type of an automatic system. Humidistats what we finally ended up on, which was good. But the other thing that we were not initially enforcing was the thermal break between the steel frame of the trailer and the floor. That was where we saw that there was a number of problems on the at the bottom plate on the exterior walls. Ever since we've actually instituted those couple things, I've not really heard any real complaints of any mold anymore. But as you said earlier, that about California with the being able to handle the earthquakes, but we're making them stronger. We're also making them tighter. That's the thing. These homes are really tight, and I'm with you. I'm a firm believer of a minimum of the exhaust fan with the humidistat, but like an HRV or ERV, that's really, I think, the right thing to put in these houses so that they can exchange the air. Because that's the problem. When you have a 14 or 1,500 square foot house, the volume is so large that you don't have to worry that much about mold. And normally, if it's going to occur, it's going to be either in the bathroom area, or if you have a crawl space that's really not vented well or is subjected to a lot of moisture. But in these tiny houses, that square footage is much smaller. It's like just having an oversized bathroom, and humidity builds into them really fast. And I'm a firm believer in, you got to change that air. If you don't change the air, it's just, you're going to develop problems. But the changes that Noah made as far as requiring that thermal break, and also the humidistat for the bathroom fan. Initially, they were accepting a timer, but that's just, you set the timer and it's going to go off. That's not going to sense any humidity. So, we looked at that and then we changed that. So we're evolving just like everything else is evolving, but we keep looking for a better fix to the mousetrap. And I think Noah's done one heck of a good job at finding all the little problems, because all you guys come back to us and tell us, this little problem or that little problem. So we look for ways to alleviate that problem or find a fix for it. So I think, in my opinion, I think Noah has done a fantastic job on that. And I think mold is still going to be a problem in some cases, because you're going to have some builders that don't properly seal the window when they install the windows or even the door. So I think it's still going to have some small issues, but not like the ones that we did find in the past, though.
So Tony, you mentioned HRVs and ERVs, and that one I was talking about, we actually managed to squeeze an HRV in there. Those things are big. I mean, I know they have ones that will take like 30 seconds, expel air, 30 seconds to inhale. So they inhale, exhale, exhale. But this one, you have 4 separate vents because you have an inhale and an exhale at the same time, and they cross each other, in the center. And that exhale essentially heats that up or cools it depending on the time of year, right? And the air coming back in is warmed up or cooled by that. Those things are rather large. I'd be interested in hearing from all the different builders, and maybe Noah can come up with some sort of recommendation for it. Where do you put the darn thing? It's
Yes.
big.
One of our builders uses one that I don't know, and I should have questioned him what it was, what type it was, but it's the only thing you really see it's in an exterior wall, and the only thing you really see is a cover on the outside and the cover or on the inside of the room, and the cover was about, I'd say it was about 6 inches wide by maybe about 9 or 10 inches long, and it changes the air. And I should have asked them what the manufacturer was of it. I have a couple more days with Noah, so if I ever get a chance to see him again, I will.
It comes out of a
I've
company
seen
called 475 Supply.
What was that? I'm sorry.
It comes out of a company called 475 Supply out of New England.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about, where it exhales and then inhales and exhales and inhales, rather than doing it both at the same time. They're
Mhm.
through the wall like that, but those things are just under $1,000.
Oh yeah, they're not
Yeah.
cheap.
There's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
company making them out of Germany called Blauberg. The ones out of 475, I believe, are the Lumos. The Blauberg, if you go to menards.com, they'll ship them anywhere in the country, and I think they're more like $500-600. The other option is the Panasonic ceiling ones. And what I've done is I've dropped my bathroom ceiling down. I've padded it down by like a 2x4 length, and then I can still get some rigid insulation above that. People don't really notice the loss. And again, I'm not trying to fit a bathroom under a loft, but and so then I use that, and that's more like say like 15 inches wide by maybe 22 inches, and it looks like a big bath fan. And that does have a dedicated in and out. You just want to run those, like 4 or 5 feet apart on the exterior. And those are actually really cost effective. I've found that for that one for like around $500 or something like that. And it's more effective than the through the wall kind. But again, no
Can you put a
perfect.
link to that? Could you put a link to
Uh,
that in the chat?
Yep, I will.
And just a quick note on that for everybody on the call: the minimum code is 120 inches or 10 feet apart between internal venting and external venting.
This model, the manufacturer accepts less than that. So I think as long as the manufacturer says it's okay, then the code says it's okay. Is that right?
But
Is that
the
how?
other thing too is if you go out each side of the home,
Yeah.
you got the whole corners to think about too, right? Beyond a normal HRV, you've got four,
Yeah.
2 inlets and 2 outlets that you got to think about.
Yeah, they can take up some room and they are expensive, but yeah, but some of them, I also have had a number of builders or a couple builders say to me, how come Noah doesn't put on their website a list of manufacturers and so forth that are approved by Noah, a list of manufacturers of different windows and HRVs or different things like that. And I said, as far as I can understand, but Robin would answer this better, but I tell him, as far as I understand, we can't really advertise, or we're not supposed to advertise different manufacturers and so forth. But I'm not sure, Robin, on that.
Well, a lot of it depends on, when we do something out there, if we give 3 possible recommendations or whatever, then, we're not recommending a particular one, but we try to stay away from that. Our accreditation is very important to us. And if we kind of get too involved with the builders, then it could affect our accreditation as a third party, impartial third party inspector on things. So we've had to move from quote unquote members to clients and do a few things in order to keep our accreditation viable, so that we can still be, I think they call it a C. There's an A, B, and C, and the C is where you've got an arm's length, no no connection with the people that you're serving. The B is where you do have a connection, and C and A is, I think, where you're part of the builder or the manufacturer. And I might have those backwards, but we are the farthest away from the builder. Go ahead, Leanne.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just was mumbling that you are correct.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
and we call them resources, not recommendations, because we can't really
Resources.
recommend one over the other, but we
Right.
That's
could
what-
maybe add a few window. But when I talk to my new builders, I do. They always know they can call for any kind of advice. And I do have a document on egress windows, but we do have one question, and then we're gonna end this with whoever wants to come on and give Tony a happy farewell. We'll see you later. We're not saying goodbye. He'll probably chime in once in a while, but so Isaac wants to know if spray foam is used for trailer subfloor insulation. Does the metal pan need to have venting?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Not
so.
venting, but it has a way for the moisture to get out. Usually the metal pan is just tack welded on, and there's
Right.
the ability for moisture to get out on the sides.
Yeah.
Unless it's an Iron Eagle.
And then you have to drill some holes.
They have the four corners and that's it. They cut notches out in the four corners. Absolutely it. And that's the
Wow.
sunken pan too, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for all of your input and questions. It's been a good chat. And let's see, Kiwi. Hey, Tony, you can read that if you want. I have some that I'm going to read, but
Thank you.
you read that? I'll read it. Hey, Tony, thank you for your help and understanding on all my builds. It was a pleasure working with you and Noah. Kiwi.
It's
And
been my
Andy,
pleasure.
did you have anything you wanted to say? I did write your message from Instagram, but if you want to speak it, go for it.
Yes, for sure. Tony was my first inspector, so it was my first introduction to the NOAA way. And
I'm sorry.
yeah, I came, I came to building tiny houses from, building lots of large homes, and Tony really helped me kind of figure out how to translate my best practices and habits for building large homes, and how to think about, kind of translating that all to build the best tiny home I could. It's always been, with all the inspectors, but like I said, Tony was my introduction, and I'll always be grateful that, I think he helped us figure out how to build better homes for our clients. And it's always a good day when I hear Tony's voice on the other end of the inspection, because I know he's always seems to be in a good mood, at least me. And he's always encouraging, and that means a lot. Gina and I, like we pretty much, we don't see very many other people. Our shop is attached to our house. So, like we go outside the shop, we build all day. And so, actually I like scheduling my inspections and talking to people.
It's really been my pleasure, Andy. It's been my pleasure with all of you, really. It's been my pleasure working with Noah.
And we have a message from Joshua, Tiny House Basics, our trailer manufacturer in California and a couple other locations. Hey, Tony, thank you so much for all your help and experience. You will be missed.
I'm going to miss you guys too.
Oh, this is the link, Andy. Thanks, Andy. Speaking of this input, I had on my quarterly priorities to create we were going to do a chat type forum for the builders to get together and toss ideas and thoughts back and forth. And that was on my quarterly priority to create a Facebook group, which I have done. haven't invited anybody, but I did put my email in the chat. If anybody's interested in joining that, it would be great. And I know a lot of people don't do Facebook anymore, but if you are interested, please shoot me an email. It's leanne@noahcertified.org. And anybody else want to say anything to Tony? I'm gonna pull up my document and I'm gonna have to go off camera to read this
I
because
thought I heard somebody say good riddance. Did I hear somebody say good riddance? I'm not sure.
what?
Yeah,
What?
And
Yeah,
I thought I was
whatever.
muted, Tony. I'm so sorry, man. Man, we're gonna miss
Tony,
you,
I got
brother.
your number. That's all
I did write it. I'll read it for you, man. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past couple of years on inspections. Congratulations on your retirement, man. You guys really deserve it. We'll miss you. Wish you both the best of luck as you move into the next phase of your life journey. May God bless you and keep you all the days of your life, brother. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
You read that exactly how I wrote it for you. Thank you. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Payment later.
By the way, it's IPA.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're just about to end this up, but I do have a couple messages I sent out to some that I know always request Tony. This is from Maverick Tiny Homes. We want you to know that we appreciate all your support and feedback in the many inspections you have provided us over the last 5 years. We have always considered you part of our team with the way, okay, take a deep breath. The way you approached the tiny industry and the respect you had for us as a builder. You showed how much you care, and you truly will be missed. Again, the very best to you. Thank you, Gerald, and all of the Maverick team.
That was nice.
And this one, this is a little long, and I'll try not to let my eyes water. From Backcountry, thank you for reaching out to us and what conflicting set of emotions we have. On one hand, we're incredibly excited for Tony and his chance to enjoy his hard-earned retirement, but we know selfishly that we will miss working with him on our projects. Tony was our very first contact with Noah. I told you, Sherry. Sincerely appreciated his knowledge, patience, kindness, and genuine passion throughout the years. When you visualize an inspector in any trade, you usually don't expect someone to be as enthusiastic about your own work as you yourself are. At the end of builds, after the final inspection was complete, Tony would often give us compliments and acclamations about the homes. Our small team here at Backcountry Tiny Homes have come to call our final inspection with Tony as Tony time. Because after all the nuts and bolts have been approved, our team would listen in for the kind words about their finished quality. It was something our entire team looked forward to hearing because Tony made them feel seen and appreciated for their hard work. We love what we do, and we feel lucky that we were able to share that with someone who is just excited about our work as we are. Thank you, Tony, for all your time. We hope that if you find yourself in our neck of the woods, New Hampshire, on a future retirement road trip, that you stop by and spend some time with us. Warmest regards, Tina, Luke, and team. Chaya, Eric, Kayla, Aaron, and Andrew. Okay. And lastly, well, Doug read his. Oh, sorry, what?
Trying to make me tear up here, so stop.
I know, right? I'm just a sensitive young lady. Don't mind me. All right, John Dyer with the San Jose Conservation Corp in California. Well, I don't have to read that part. We're sad to see Tony leave, and I'm sure he will finally enjoy his retirement. We all, but especially myself, admire Tony's knowledge of the building trades. Most importantly, Tony always took extra steps to work with our students on the various building inspections. He always took the extra time and even encouraged the students to be confident in their work. I personally will always admire his professionalism. Thank you is not enough for his total cooperation in our training. Doug read his.
I'm very prejudiced, but Tony is one of a kind.
Easy.
And I know. And he's gonna miss being with you.
Oh, I am.
And I'm gonna miss being with him on this trip.
Yeah.
Oh,
But we're off to new adventures.
Yep.
We don't have much time left, so we
Yeah.
need to enjoy it now. But we will miss all of you so, so much.
Yes, we will.
well, you guys better check in with us.
Well,
Oh,
Tony,
yeah.
I know you're counting down the days. You tell me that on a daily basis.
I do.
And when you don't tell me that, you get told on by your wife and your brother. So you get told on.
Does
But
he know
I
we
just
can see
want
the
you
calendar in the
and Joanne
background with
to
the
know.
days?
I just want you and Joanne both to know that you have really taken Noah a step towards the bigger yonder that we ever could have imagined because of your knowledge. And I, for one, working with you daily and for years now, you're family and always will be family. So just know wherever you end up in your camper, there's always a place to park it between Pennsylvania and Florida. You've got it covered.
Remember that when you see me in your backyard.
That's okay.
All right.
I hope
That's
this is being
okay.
recorded.
But just know that you both are very fondly cared for
Thank you.
and will always be a part of Noah, no matter
Yes,
what.
that's
Thank
right.
you. I appreciate
You
it.
don't get out of this family that easily.
I know.
Well, I personally want to say thank you for always answering my questions that I get from the builders, and you're just always willing to take an inspection if you have time. And just want to say I appreciate both of you. I hope you just greatly enjoy your retirement. Go travel the world. And like Sherry said, I have a big backyard. So if you want to pull that RV up down here in Central Florida, feel free. We love you, Tony.
So yeah,
Love you,
Tony,
bye.
Pennsylvania, I'm here. You're there. You can make it up here. You know, not a big deal. It's been a pleasure. You're definitely one of the inspectors that and persons, human, that you're a rare breed. It's rare to have someone that does the inspections, the authority side of it, but is really able to communicate it in a very typical way. Like you would just be talking, amongst family or whatever it is. So that's a rare quality, and it's going to be sorely missed. Yeah, much so. And Joanne, I'm going to miss your emails reminding me.
For that.
No, seriously though, Joanne, you definitely keep the arrow on the clock, and that you keep Tony straight, and you kept all of us straight. So that's a fantastic thing to have. It really is. And you guys are going to really enjoy retirement, even though we're not going to enjoy you being in retirement. A little selfish there, but
Yeah.
we'll try and suck you back in, every 2-3 months or so. We'll give you a call.
Yeah. There
I'm
you
sure.
go. You'll
Rich,
get the
you
link for
really
the
said
next.
that. You really said that well. Tony, you just have a way with telling people, giving them accolades, yes, but when they do something wrong, you just have a way of humanizing it. It's just phenomenal, and your
Thank you.
expertise has been invaluable.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Doug. Really.
Betcha.
Amen to that.
I
Now
gotta
to
say
find
something
the
here too before we
cloning
go.
machine.
Yeah, before we close it all out here, guys, I'm not a real big one for, always worrying about birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and all of that. But I just want everyone to know that, yeah, he will be missed, but we're not saying goodbye to Tony. We're saying see you later, and
Yeah.
he will be possibly helping out in some areas. He's just stepping back, and Tony, we realize that it's time for you to do that, and the timing actually couldn't be better. It's perfect timing. I just wanted to say, for the years and I've known you from beginning when you first came here, because we brought you on. I remember when we brought you on, and
Yeah.
the areas that you kind of developed, Sherry alluded to. We do what they call value opinions, and I don't like doing the value opinions, but Tony does the bank uh, reports, on tiny houses, and he was the one that actually put that program together, and Liberty Bank was really grateful, and some other people actually had used that, but that's something that Tony put together on his own and really did a fantastic job. I don't know. I guess we'll have to figure out from here on how we do that if we have to. But thanks for being part of our whole growth spurt that we've had here. Who would have thought that little old Noah here would be a nationally known company doing inspections on tiny houses? I never could have even conceived or thought of that, but it's really because of our team and our cultural commitments, our all of the things, our core values that we all hold together, and that's what's made Noah and everyone in it a success, at least in my book. So yeah, I just wanted to say my little 2 cents worth there, even though I don't normally chime in on things like this, but I wanted to do that, Tony. So kudos.
Awesome.
Thank everyone. Thank you very
That's
much.
okay, Tony. You'll be at work tomorrow. That's fine.
That's right. Oh, I have one more from Tiny Dream Homes team. We'll miss you, Tony. We wish you the best on your future retirement. Stay real. If y'all can see the picture, you can see the 2 tiny homes that are NOAA certified. Oh, there he is. Yeah, so that's up in Tennessee, but that's my retirement home. It's reserved for me.
You're welcome to come
All
anytime.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tony. You can come retire here with us.
All right. Falls
Thank you,
Branch,
guys.
somewhere up there.
That's right. Falls Branch,
Oh, all right.
Tennessee.
Okay, y'all got anything else? I think that'll do it. Look for the agenda for our September 16th 4-day Tiny Talks workshop. And y'all have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And thank you, inspectors, especially for joining tonight. I know y'all worked all day, so just appreciate you so much. And thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.